Remember the 2000s when seemingly every movie that released had a game to go with it? Oh, who am I kidding? I'm only the 50th YouTuber to ask you that this month. But anyway, I look at a bygone era of games and see some legitimate gems like Spider-Man 2, which pioneered the physics-based web swinging that we know today, or the Batman Begins spin-off game, which influenced the Arkham games later on. With how technology has evolved over the last 2 decades, the time window for game development has become a lot smaller than movie production, making it near impossible to get anything other than a small scale, simple, or mobile game. I mean, just look. It's not like they're needed or anything. Movies do just fine without them, and there's less consumerism involved. But I like to theorize about, what it would be like if some movies, past or present, had games to match them, or have the games be direct adaptations of them. So, I cobbled together a list of movies that I think would make for cool games, and what those games would play like. And to start off, we have Rango 2011. Rango comes to mind as being something with a really awesome art direction, obviously parodying Western classics. The first thing that comes to mind when concepting a game based off the film is to just make it Red Dead Redemption. There's mods that probably do that. But I get the feeling that we could get a bit more creative than that. Maybe have it be a more linear level by level experience, with there being bosses based on Western spins on animals. I'm sorry, what? Huh. So apparently there's a game about Rango. I didn't know this. I feel really stupid. Is what I would say if my concept wasn't more awesome and kick-ass than this one. Make it a Soulsborne game. Up next, I have Space Jam. Space Jam as a concept is always so cool. Seeing a pre-existing set of characters play sports or drive around or what have you. But what I think is a missing element of those games is that they don't take advantage of the fact that these characters often have abilities that they'd obviously use to get an advantage in the game. My idea for a Space Jam game suggests that each character would have a set of abilities based on things they may do in the show, Looney Tunes, or the movie that would give them advantages on the court, similar to something like Mario Kart, for example. It would essentially be like a party game with a low and accessible skill ceiling, with RNG making the difference in between. If you thought blue shells were bad, imagine thinking you got a turnover on Bugs Bunny just to find out that he replaced the ball with a stick of dynamite. Or Elmer Fudd just pulling out a shotgun just because he can. The possibilities are endless! My next pick is Darkman, released in 1990, directed by Sam Raimi. Oh, Sam Raimi, the madman that you are. Darkman is a favorite of mine, and a lot of that is attributed to the twisted vigilante / body horror that this film has to offer. Seriously, if you haven't seen this movie, go see it. I don't even know why you're watching this part of the video. Given the nature of the film, my idea is that the game would almost be like a Hitman game, with the focus on stealth by pretending to be others to manipulate events, or rush in aggressively, taking full advantage of the body horror elements and really pushing that ESRB rating. Stealth games aren't as popular a genre these days, and so I'm always open to more entries. They genuinely have such fun mechanics and level design, and a game based around Darkman as its vehicle or something similar could really be a fun experience to help, bring back the genre.
Well, Paulie, have a nice flight.
The next game I have is for one of my favorite films of all time, The Crow, 1994. The Crow is an adaptation that's more known than the source material, which is unfortunate since the book, written by James O'Barr, is really cool and pulls no punches at all. A game could be similar, maintaining the gothic aesthetic and adapting the film, or even the book's story. As for gameplay, I was thinking of something akin to like Postal, where you complete objectives in a rather crude way. Eric is, of course, immortal, so a higher level of difficulty for mission completion that encourages precision will be really fun and a rather unique experience. An assortment of guns, knives, and swords would diversify the gameplay, allowing you as Eric Draven to effectively use each of the weapons in equally efficient ways, giving the player freedom as to how they want to curate the experience. There's a lot of games that could be made from comics and graphic novels alone, and who knows, maybe that'll be a separate video. But of all of them, The Crow is at the top of my list. Whether they go with the film or the book, and yes, I said film singularly, I don't acknowledge these. The next choice, that's also adapting a book, although loosely, is sure to make you click off of this video, and that is Cat in the Hat 2003. Now stay with me. Alright, this idea came to me in a dream. The world of Cat in the Hat is fucking weird. I chose specifically the film because imagine just how crazy a full-scale game based off of it would be. My idea was closest to something like a Kingdom Hearts or a Mario Odyssey, with adventure being the biggest focus. It's not the most appealing idea in the world, in that I understand, but you can't tell me that a game like this wouldn't be rich in options, and making those hours logged in it be almost embarrassing. Seriously, in a game like that, the number of things you can't do would be limited. And it doesn't have to suck like a lot of similar games that are released. A longer development time would be worth it, I believe. The next film that would make for an awesome game is Chronicle 2012. Chronicle is my favorite film of all time, unequivocally, just for how raw and grounded the narrative requires it to be. You can see the seeds be planted for the eventual end of the story only 10 seconds into the film. So many outcomes that could take place with a few scenes removed or added, a conversation that had never happened, or an incident that you could prevent. Which is why, for Chronicle, I declare this to be a choice-based game. You will play as Alex, and the decisions you make choose the endings for Andrew and Steve. Even bigger than the telekinesis is the sheer influence that each scene has over the next. There's nothing in this film that doesn't have an effect on the outcome of the story, and commanding that would hail many interesting narrative differences than the original, providing insight to just how avoidable/unavoidable things in this story truly are. So no sequel, either in-game or film format, will ever see the light of day. I'm so sorry, Josh Trank. Still, it's a fun idea to theorize over, even if it'll never happen, like many things that I come up with. Finally, last but not least, we have John Wick. Oh, you knew it was coming. John Wick has come to mind to be a video game protagonist for a long time now, and from a lot of people, and how could you not? The fast-paced action and creativity naturally translates to video game form. And don't get me wrong, there have been attempts, but not quite what people were looking for. Many comparisons for a John Wick game have been the likes of Ghost Recon, Resident Evil 4 Remake, and the Max Payne series, with a heavy focus on close quarter combat and precision with the weapons you're given. So these three games just make sense. Resident Evil 4 Remake deals with crowds of mostly unintelligent beings whilst practicing resourcefulness. It's also made even better with the inclusion of melee options with button prompts after stunning an enemy, parries, and possibly the greatest aspect, the knife. Ghost Recon seems to prioritize stealth and strategy to pick off enemies in the most efficient way. Max Payne as a series is possibly the most accurate you'll ever get to a John Wick experience, but I think that for him, we can get a bit more creative. For my concept, stealth would be just as important as guns blazing action. Things like shooting through walls, the utilization of 3D audio to hear footsteps, using distractions and the environment to gain the upper hand on the enemy come to mind for stealth gameplay. As for the alternative, the game would prioritize firearm accuracy, with most shots being 1 to 2 hit kills, like in the movies. However, it comes with a trade-off as John's HP is extremely limited as well, with healing options not being readily available to the player, but only in certain sections within the game. This way, the intensity is there from the very beginning, inviting challenge and rewarding efficiency. Melee can look like anything from stealth kills to disarming, wrestling, or even using objects, like the famed pencil. I also had an idea where John could use enemies as human shields, or grapple them to shoot them wherever, kinda like the sword slashing mechanic in Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. As for the story, just retell the movies, since that's what most would like to play through anyway. But a prequel could be really cool as well, getting to see a younger, far more agile and apathetic John before we see him in the first film. Perhaps even a dream sequence where he fights through his own imagination, visualizing the sins of his past. Either way you slice it, a film-accurate John Wick game could be one of the most technically impressive and engaging experiences in video game history. And that's about all I have. What did you think? Let me know in the comments.
John in Tennessee, go ahead. What you want to say?
That shit is fucking trash, dog. Get the fuck off the airway.
I won't lie, this entire video was formed around the John Wick concept, if you couldn't tell. But my mind ran wild and decided to start naming stuff, and now we're here. It's a kind of weird video concept, but I don't know. I wanted to make it, so I did. I promise the next one won't be this weird. So, in a time in the gaming industry where originality is scarce and often overlooked, maybe these aren't the best ideas, but it's totally fun to theorize over. Realistically, there's a lot of film and television that would translate well into gaming, and hey, who knows, maybe that inspiration could turn into original ideas. I guess only time will tell. But anyways, that's all I have to say. So bye.
New York City, you listen to me. If you're near a convenience store right now, any type of 24-hour store, go into the store right now and put your hand in the cash register for no reason. Their money is your money as of right now.